The Epstein files have been released. If you remember going back, a bill by Representative Ro Khanna, the Democrat from California, and Thomas Massie, who's a Republican, they partnered up for some bipartisan legislation on releasing the Epstein files. It passed the House, it passed the Senate. After some questions that the president was going to sign it, he ultimately signed it. It's now law. And last Friday was the date that these files had to be released by the Department of Justice. So they essentially, late into the day, would release a really large amount of them. I should say a really large amount of them. They would release some of them, and it would be gaining some controversy because then it'd be found out that some were even deleted. I'll show you some of the images and things like that we were seeing in those documents. Bill Clinton was revealed in them multiple times. You see there Michael Jackson, can't get it out, my own name. Michael Jackson there, Bill Clinton again. There was one photo of Trump that was released. It was then deleted. I'll read some AP reporting. It's since been added back on the site, but I'll quickly read some AP reporting on what's kind of going on here. So the AP says at least 16 files disappeared from the Justice Department's public webpage for documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, including a photograph showing President Donald Trump less than a day after they were posted, with no explanation from the public, from the government, and no notice to the public. The missing files, which were available Friday and no longer accessible by Saturday, included images of paintings. I'm not sure how to say this word. I'm not going to like depicting. I'm sure I've heard it before, but depicting nude women, and one showing a series of photographs along credenza and in drawers. In that image, included inside a drawer, among other photos, was a photograph of Trump alongside Epstein, Melania Trump, and Epstein's longtime associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. The Justice Department didn't answer questions Saturday about why the files disappeared, but said in a post on X that, quote, photos and other materials will continue being reviewed and redacted consistent with the law in an abundance of caution as we receive additional information. And that's kind of where I'm going to take you to next, because there's been like some questions by Representative Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie. All these files were not released like the law states. And within that law, essentially, it says that if the days that continue to go on, if they're not released, if the law is not followed, I believe it's a $5,000 fine. I know it was a fine, just not sure the exact amount, will be given to the Attorney General. There's also this question on impeaching the Attorney General. Here is Representative Ro Khanna on CNN on Friday.
Ro Khanna of California. Congressman, you wrote this law. Do you believe the DOJ is complying with it?
No, and Ellie and Evan are absolutely right. Look, Thomas Massie and I poured over those 2 pages, and we explicitly added the section saying that internal communication about whether to charge or not needs to be released. The reason we added that is we had talked to the survivors' lawyers. The survivors' lawyers had said that the 2 most important documents to be released are, one, the draft indictment that Evan just mentioned that has evidence of wrongdoing and the involvement of other rich and powerful men, and an 82-page memo that was prepared by the assistant U.S. attorney supporting that indictment. That is why that explicit paragraph was added. So I agree, actually, with Ellie. The issue here isn't that they've only done some of the release. By the way, there are 300 gigabytes of files, according to Kash Patel. They've released 2.5 gigabytes. So that's one issue. But Massie and I were actually in this morning talking, and we said, look, we're willing to give them some benefit of the doubt as long as the quality of the release is substantive. But what we found out is the most important documents are missing. They've had excessive redactions that Americans want to know. Who are the other rich and powerful men on the island raping these young girls or covering up has not been thought. Should not is information about politicians or powerful people who may have been implicated. The whole point, again, if you read the law, is to say embarrassment or reputational harm cannot be a reason for redaction.
So y'all are drafting articles of impeachment. I mean, how will you decide if you're going to file that?
Well, one is a pragmatic decision in terms of impeachment is a political decision? And is there the support in the House of Representatives? I mean, Massey and I aren't going to just do something for the show of it. But my sense is, just looking at the initial people in MAGA from survivors, is that this release is going to cause as much grief for people as the earlier release.
So that was Representative Ro Khanna there speaking um, on CNN on Friday, essentially saying people were not going with people were not going with what the law said. Essentially, also the DOJ, the reason they released those, I mean, I should say deleted some of those documents, they would later say it was to protect the victims, and they would also say they put the photo of Trump that was described there by the AP that I just read, back online. There has been a statement from the victims on some of this. I want to just read it to you. This was obtained by ABC 7 Eyewitness News, or we obtained it from them, so credit to them for having this. There you go. They write in this statement, quote, "Instead, the public received a fraction of the files, and what we received was riddled with abnormal and extreme redactions with no explanation. This is a group of 19 women, including 2 Jane Does. What they said in this statement here, released earlier this morning. Quote, at the same time, numerous victim identities were left unredacted, causing real and immediate harm. As I said before, the Justice Department went back and took away some of those images, but again, they're still claiming that their names were released. The statement would go on to say, quote, no financial documents were released. Grand jury minutes, though approved by a federal judge for release, were fully blacked out. Not the scattered redactions that might be expected to protect victims' name, but 119 pages blacked out. We are told that there are hundreds of thousands of pages of documents still unreleased. These are clear-cut violations of an unambitious law. The statement added. I want to show you one of those pages that's being talked about here, that was redacted. Here we go. I'll show it to you. So the top of it says Grand Jury New York. There was a judge that would later say that some grand jury documents can be released. So the question is, does this apply to it? Because this is 119 pages, as was said in that statement. I'll just scroll down here quickly. Every single one of them fully blacked out. So the question is, was this within the jurisdiction of the DOJ to do? What was the full and entire ruling by the judge there saying some grand jury material could be released? Does that include this document that is fully blacked out? At least to the appearances of this entire document being blacked out? The DOJ appears to say, hey, no, it's not within that ruling that the judge left out. But there's so many still questions, and I was showing you guys some of those images that we were seeing, and I'll pull them back up for you, because I thought they were quite interesting, seeing some of these photos. But there's no context. It's a page. Sometimes it's like a page, and it'll just have a photo on it, but there's no information about the photo or anything like that. And you'll see in a moment a photo of Bill Clinton in a hot tub with someone. I did put disturbing content just because some of these images might be found disturbing to some people. So I wanted to note that as well. But again, there's no context behind some of these photos. They're interesting, just like this one. There's no, it's a room with a picture of what appears to be a nude woman, but there's no information behind this. We see Bill Clinton oftentimes in some of these photos, many Democrats saying, why haven't they released more information, more photos of Trump, but rather releasing it of a Democrat, in this case, Bill Clinton? I think that's a fair question to ask, but the DOJ kind of asking for forgiveness here because they weren't able to release all of the files, saying there's so much and we didn't have enough time to release all of them. So this is truly all going to be something to follow here. What exactly happens with this, with kind of what's next here in this Epstein file saga, as I like to say, because it's just, I mean, constant spewing of information yet, but sometimes it's like, we have questions, so many questions, and that release was just not answering many of them. And I think for a lot of people, it also wasn't revealing any major new revelations. And I think maybe a lot of people were really looking for that. So it's going to be something we're going to follow right here. I know I am following this very closely. That's why I wanted to give you guys an entire segment with multiple clips and things like that, showing you all of the drama, the tea, as I would say if I was off camera.